From the Tea Party to Occupy Wall Street, people are fed up with the out-of-control spending and the arrogance of the Washington ruling class. But is the anger of the Tea Party and Occupy movement misdirected? Who or what exactly is to blame for our nation's current economic crisis? Our next guest is out with a new book that details the real cause of America's demise that has been decades in the making. Joining me from Ann Arbor, Michigan is Michael LeGault, author of the new book, The Next American Revolution: How the American Government Stole the American Dream and How We Can Get It Back. Michael, thank you so much for joining us today. And get into the book a little bit. What exactly are the Tea Partiers and the occupiers missing? What is the real root cause of decline here?
Well, in my view, first of all, the Occupy Wall Street movement is misdirected because if anybody stops to reflect on for a moment on what they're saying, first of all, you realize that free enterprise and capitalism aren't the problem. Free enterprise and capitalism actually created the middle class. I mean, before people like Henry Ford and Thomas Edison, there wasn't a middle class. And also, capitalism and free enterprise created the wealthiest country on the face of the earth. And it was a wealth shared by everyone. And that's why people left their countries where they were making less money and came to the United States. And secondly, the reality is that, in fact, there's been a vast transfer of power and wealth from government, from the private sector to the public sector. 5 of the 7 richest counties in the United States are now suburbs of Washington, D.C., and the average federal government worker makes double in wages and benefits compared to the average worker in the private sector.
Now, I think a lot of Americans see this and they just get so angry because, you try to play by the rules and it's almost you're better off if you don't. But talk a little bit about how Washington's contributed to this problem, because you go into this, Rome has been burning and both the Democrats and Republicans have kind of just sat by and watched. Why has there been no action to correct course?
Well, certainly under Barack Obama, in my view, the condition has worsened. I mean, in broad brushstrokes, the debt has doubled and regulatory costs have doubled. But if you step back and you take a look at the big picture, you find, I go back 40 years, it took 30 years for the Code of Federal Regulations to reach 40,000 pages in the mid-1960s. And in a space of a single decade from 1970 to 1980, Code of Federal Regulations doubled in size from 50,000 pages to 100,000 pages. And what I found is that this strongly correlates with the decline of a significant number of quality of life measurables for average middle class Americans. Real wages peaked in 1972 and have been stagnant or in decline ever since. Productivity has been in decline since 1972. And I think these regulatory costs, we've finally reached a tipping point in this country. I mean, the American economy has been able to roll with the punches for a long time and absorb all these regulatory costs, but I think we finally reached a tipping point and the system is shutting down.
Now, because we keep hearing about, we're kicking the can down the road, we've got to start dealing with this now, but I mean, is that time here now? I mean, as you said, we reached a tipping point, but how responsible, we talked about the president, but Congress hasn't passed a budget in over 900 days. I mean, what's going on in Washington?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, it's become a very, very dysfunctional place. I will say this, in my view, gridlock is preferable to what had taken place 2 years before, or until midterm elections. And before gridlock, we got Obamacare and we got Dodd-Frank and a bunch of other things. So yes, the Congress is tied up right now. Things aren't working like they should. But hopefully in 2012, we will get people in there on a mandate to fix and repair the government and fix and repair this country, pay down the debt, decrease regulatory costs, and get this country on the right path.
Now, Michael, we talk a lot about the federal government, but what about the individual states? Because you said this has been decades in the making, and we look at my home state of California, which has just gone to heck. We look at, states like Michigan, the city of Detroit, which is just, dying, and it's all because of liberal policies. I mean, are the states early indicators? And if that's so, then is getting the states back on track going to help the federal government get back on track as well?
Well, certainly, I think the states, the bigger atmosphere that is fed off is the federal government. But the states have a role to play in this, no doubt. And in my state, it's as big a wreck as California. Jobs have been been going out of the state. People have been leaving the state, and part of it has been due to what some of the state policies are. There have been excessive taxes, et cetera. And this is happening now. What's happening is finally this is percolating down. I mean, the private sector has been suffering. Factory jobs have been going away, and well-paying middle-class jobs have been going away for years. But now it's finally trickling down into the public sector. And what I'm finding in Michigan is, this is affecting teachers, firefighters, police. All these things are being cut. And these people are now realizing, how important the private sector is to creation of wealth in their own jobs, their own job security.
Well, it's so scary because we see this theme of class warfare emerging in the election. How important is 2012, and how do we get the American dream back?
Well, 2012 is very, very important. I mean, it is the most important election in certainly in my lifetime. And, we have to have, the Republicans have to put up a candidate. I say, from my own point of view, get a straw man in there, work out the details later. But in reality, Republicans have to have a good, viable candidate, and someone who can debate and point out the shortcomings of what Barack Obama's been trying to do to this country. But I think I sense a mood now. I really do. I really, really do. I think that I'm flinched to say this, but maybe the election of Barack Obama had a silver lining in that people in this country have taken our standard of living for granted. And we believe that, hey, we can just regulate, we can just do all of these things, and it's not going to affect the economy. But I think we finally woken up to saying, hey, we can't do this. We can't do this and have our standard of living and continue to enjoy the fruits of a high standard of living.
No, we certainly have kind of seen this attitude of entitlement emerge. And I think a lot of people that have joined kind of the Tea Party and Occupy movement have kind of felt like they're beginning to wake up and take action. But Michael, thank you so much for joining us today to talk about your book.
Thank you, Alexis.
And to read more of Michael's work, be sure to pick up a copy of his book, The Next American Revolution: How the American Government Stole the American Dream and How We Can Get It Back. Or you can visit his website, michaellegault.com. For PJTV, I'm Alexis Garcia.